3, now.
Have you ever used a flashlight at night to make your face glow? Well, amphibians and reptiles use similar fluorescence despite their differences. Humans have always been fascinated of the variation of distribution of these fluorescents. I used to live next to a tropical city called Puerto Vallarta. There I saw how these amphibians and reptiles use these fluorescents to survive. To understand this, we'll talk about how amphibians and reptiles use these fluorescents to communicate, to camouflage, and to attract their mates. First, we'll talk about how they communicate amongst themselves and how they use fluorescence to express themselves in various ways. As defined by researchers Botello et al. In their 2024 research titled Fluorescence in Amphibians and Reptiles, he states that frogs use fluorescence as a visual signal. Researchers Witcher et al. In their ecological tuning of biofluorescence signals in their 2023 journal informs us that the fluorescence parts of a frog's body are located on the underside and as well as the frog's throat. These fluorescents are spread into the desert as well. Researchers Brotzel et al. In their 2021 journal called Neon Green Fluorescence in the Desert Gecko describes that the fluorescence around their eyes and the lower flanks of the Nabib sand gecko function as a long-distance communication signal. Botello et al. In their 2024 journal Fluorescence in Amphibians and Reptiles indicate that the lizard's fluorescent bones play a huge role in the visual and their communication. Next, we'll talk about how they disguise and hide, and how fluorescence helps them stand out or fade into their natural habitat. In 2017, a journal titled The Dual Road System by researchers Yakovich et al. Suggests that fluorescence in frogs function as a warning signal to their predators. Researchers Cox and Fitzpatrick in their 2023 journal article called Biofluorescent Sexual Dimorphism in the Southern Appalachian Salamander indicate that the salamanders camouflage by creating contrast between themselves and their environment. Reptiles use fluorescent to reveal themselves among themselves as well, like so. Brotzel et al. In their 2021 journal called Neon Green Fluorescence in the Desert Gecko suggests that the fluorescence in chameleons may function as ornaments for their species recognition. And researchers Daho et al. In their journal called Stripes and Loss of Color in the Ball Python, written in 2023, conclude that the fluorescent pine stripe patterns in the ball python demonstrate as a simple dominance to their predators. Now we'll talk about how they mate and the attraction, and how amphibians use a unique way of attracting their mate in a game of sexual display. In 2023, researchers Witcher et al. In their journal called Ecological Tuning of Biofluorescent Signals uncovers that amphibians use fluorescence to signal sexual selections to mate their attraction. Researchers Botello et al. In their 2024 journal Fluorescence in Amphibians and Reptiles conclude that amphibians display ocular fluorescence that helps them select their mates. In 2024, in a journal called Fluorescence in Amphibians and Reptiles, researchers by Botello et al. Indicate that reptiles exhibit fluorescence to aid species recognition and sexual attractiveness. The researchers conclude in the same article called Fluorescence in Amphibians and Reptiles by Botello et al. In 2024, conclude that these chameleons have fluorescent bones and dermal fluorescence that indicate sexual behavior within the same species. And here are your chameleons with their fluorescence, as well as your salamanders and your striped pythons as well. These three forms of fluorescence are used by amphibians and reptiles. In conclusion, we learned how amphibians and reptiles use these fluorescents to communicate, to camouflage, and to attract their mates. After learning about these functions and abilities, which do you think are the most important for them to survive? Thank you.